The primary thing that a church needs out of its pastor is for him to be a man of God, who belongs to God, who spends most time with God, whose thoughts are of God, who seeks to hear God, who separates himself to be with God. Not just studying men who were alone with God, but getting alone with God. And I want to say even this, not just reading the Bible or studying it, but being alone with God in prayer. To speak to Him, to hear from Him, to meditate upon Him, to commune with Him. One of the problems I have with the Reformed movement in America is this. We are so afraid of all the folly and vanity of the charismatic movement that we've come to believe that the entire Christian life and our relationship with God is nothing more than correct exegesis. And that's why. There is a sense of dwelling with God, of being with God, being in the presence of God, knowing God, speaking God, yes, even experiencing God, even though we hate that word. But I will not let anyone take it from me. Jesus was a man of prayer. Did He care about the people? No one cared about the people like our lowly Jesus. What's the greatest thing that He can do? Remain in His communion with the Father. Be a man of God. Politicians are known to be a man of the people. We are not to be a man of the people. We are to be a man of God who goes to the people. Now, when I speak about prayer, I want you to know something. Many people, when they think about prayer, the only thing they think about is intercession and lists. Because in all those discipleship notebooks we've got lists of things that we're supposed to pray about. My dear friend, intercession is extremely important. But intercession is not the same thing, or is not all there is to do with prayer. Intercession is maybe a small thing of what prayer really is. Prayer is communion with God. It is a desire to be with God. There is a sense in which we should pray continually, Paul tells us. But there's also a sense in which I should be with my wife continually. But that does not mean that I do not separate special times to be with my wife primarily. And to direct all my focus upon her. We talk about David Brainerd. I mean, my goodness, if we had a saint in evangelicalism, it might be him. But look at his life, not just his theology. And also wonder, do you have his theology if it does not create in you the same thing it created in him? Here was a man who would lay himself out on a log in a deep snowfall and cry out to God all night. You see, any little boy can read a book by John Piper and begin to start preaching on the glory of God. But have you earned the right to preach on that? Has the glory of God become a reality in your life? Anyone can say, I have the same theology as Jonathan Edwards, but does it cause you to tarry with God as Jonathan Edwards did? Isn't it amazing the disciples never came to Jesus and said, teach us how to preach? They never came to Jesus and said, teach us how to walk on water. Now that's a pretty amazing thing. Lord, teach us how to cast out demons. But when they looked at the full course of His life, casting out demons, of raising the dead, healing the sick and the blind and the lame, I have to believe that the most magnificent aspect of the life of Christ that those disciples witnessed was His prayer life. Teach us how to pray. Now, this is very convicting for me. I've had young guys come up and say, teach me something about conversion. I've had people come up and say, teach me about this or that. I've had people come up to me and say, teach me how to shoot a longbow. Because there probably aren't 5 men in the world that can shoot as good as me. I'm just kidding. But when do I have someone come up to me and say, Brother Paul, I've heard you pray. Could you teach me about prayer?